Hello, welcome to the Vandal Factory podcast with me, Henry Raby, and co-host Natalie Quatermass. On the Vandal Factory podcast, we talk about arts and activism, and the last big chunky episode we put out was number 32, which was dedicated to self-employed legends working across the arts and cultural sector. And it was really important for Nat to speak to fellow disabled artists about their experiences, so this is the full, unedited conversation with Kit and Daneka. Daneka is an actor, writer and access and inclusion consultant, and Kit is a fabricator, visual artist and facilitator. And Nat talks to them about freelance life for disabled and neurodivergent artists. If you enjoy the conversation, we massively appreciate it if you would subscribe to the Vandal Factory podcast, give us a share on social media, leave us a 5-star review, recommend to a friend, or even if you have something you want to share, get in touch. Send us an email, vandalfactorytheatre@gmail.com, or get in touch on the old social media. If you're hungry for more Vandal Factory episodes, I would recommend number 20, which was a disability, arts and activism special, as well as episode 27, which also featured Daneka contributing to our activist arts manifesto. On with the conversation.
Hello, I'm Daneka. I use she and they pronouns. I'm in Manchester, sunny Manchester. It's not so sunny today. I am a freelance actor, writer, and inclusion and accessibility consultant.
I'm Kit and I live in Leeds. I do a bit of everything, to be honest. I'm an artist and a fabricator and a facilitator. I think it's just the whole ADHD of it all. I can't do the same medium more than once in a row. So that means that I like to do a nice variety of things. So if you go to my Instagram, which is at kitgeorgeart, or alternatively my website, which is www.kitgeorge.art, then you can order prints or zines, and you can access zines that I've made as PDF form as well.
Yeah, great. So let's start then, Daneka, as an access and inclusion consultant. So tell us more about that. What is that role and how did you get into it?
I even feel yucky now calling it inclusion. I don't really know what the right word for it is. I don't know. I find the word, I'm also finding the word like representation a bit of a weird word at the moment. I don't like it. It makes it feel like, I don't know. Anyway, we'll just say whatever. But I started it because I finished drama school and I went into an industry where I just didn't think it was very good, to be honest. And then was thinking about it for a long time. And then I started working at the drama school I went to when they went through a massive overhaul and shift in their like leadership and pedagogy practices. And I worked specifically looking after the queer and trans students that came through our doors. So changing the curriculum and the pedagogy surrounding actor training to be more inclusive for queer and trans students. And then I've been disabled my whole life, but became physically disabled shortly after that. And I was feeling that the most barriers I was experiencing then were due to that, because people will pick on you for the thing that they can see the most. So that became the thing that people could see the most. So I started doing that, and it's just kind of spiraled out of there. And it's now become like a second career alongside things, which I really enjoy doing. Delivering like training and consultancy for like, I was doing some this morning for the NHS. I know it sounds ridiculous, but you know, it's become like quite a big thing, I guess. And it's nice. It's a nice job. It's a hard job, but you can put all your skills together into it, I guess. And it's nice to be, I know it sounds silly, it's nice to be paid for your activism, I guess. It's not something that I do because I get paid to do it. I think that's just a byproduct of the work that I'm doing. But it's nice to be able to properly fence off that time and access people outside of activist spaces with the things that I'm trying to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, that is, gosh, there's so much in there that we can expand on and I want to hear more about. But I think you're absolutely right in terms of how being able to, when we work in in spaces where not only creatively are we sort of undermined and you're expected that art is this like luxury thing that you shouldn't necessarily get paid for, or can't you just do this in kind? You're all nodding and smiling, rolling your eyes. But also if there's activist element to it, and we all do activism as a additional thing. But then also if that's a skill set that you want to get paid for, that's like I can absolutely relate to that. And needing to pull back from activist spaces because I've burnt out. I've given all I can give and have to come away and need to only put my energy into things that pay my bills.
I guess as well, like activism looks different for different people. I can't go to protests. I can't stand up for that long. I need to be near a toilet at all times. And I wish that I could, wish that I could go and scream in the streets. It looks like a really cathartic thing to do, but it's not something I've been able to do since becoming physically disabled. So I guess my activism is the things like writing letters for people, or going to those meetings with people, or having those advocacy conversations, doing the difficult conversations outside the spaces. Everyone's activism looks different. And I think for a while I felt ashamed that my activism wasn't the protesting, the placarding in the street, but we've all got to do different things, otherwise we all burn out, and we've all got to have different facets of what, I don't know, using your skills, I guess.
Yeah, I'm feeling what you said a lot, Natalie, about being very burnt out. I'm at quite low capacity currently, but I do still do what I can. Like last at the minute, I've been finding that I can't march because of my mental health and the noise level, and just being in town is a bit of a dicey one for me when it's busy. So I helped set up and bring masks and stuff, but it's also really nice to see that this week some people had just brought their own box of masks and were running around the crowd handing them out, which was really lovely. But we just wanted, like you were saying, Daneka, about it's really hard to join actual out in town protests because often it's just like one flyer, and that's great. That's great if you've got the means, the time, and the ability to go and get there. But for a lot of people, we need to know more info if and weigh up whether it's going to be um, worth having a flare up or damaging the rest of our week's health for, because we do care about both things. But obviously, you know, it's counting the spoons and also being aware of what you need to do later in the week. But self-care takes that as well as protesting and activism for other people.
Can you tell us a bit more, Kit, about the steps that you took? For example, the easy read as well. That was something that I learned from you and Katie.
Somebody joined our team called Lauren, who does a lot of writes a lot of easy read work, and their little brother has a learning disability, so they sometimes do carer stuff, but also it just is really easy for them to kind of, easy read this thing. And as soon as I found easy reads, I fell in love so quickly. I was like, this is just like the information I need in a nice, clear, easy to read format. Um, Straight to the point, tells you what you can expect, and just as an autistic person with limited vision, that makes my life so much easier. And I know that I'm definitely not the only one. I know it's really, really helpful for people with various disabilities and their carers and friends and family.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's for those who don't know what this is, you imagine all the information that you might get on a usual flyer that could be for a protest or a show or an art gallery, but you've got all the information has a visual dimension to it. It's really big, and you're using the most simple language, and it's very to the point. And I mean, no one would look at would know me and go, "Oh, Natalie needs an easy read," but I found it really useful. And it's one of those that we're bombarded with information that even if you weren't necessarily classed as disabled in that way, My goodness me, it was handy. Oh, it was like taking a bath, having an easy read. I thought they were brilliant.
It can also be extremely useful if you have limited English because then everything's visually represented. So it means more people could kind of literally get the picture and understand if communication's a struggle.
I can, because it's something I do a lot at work. It was a term coined by an American woman, forget her name now, but she was a woman who's got ME, and she was sat across from her friend in a restaurant. And her friend was like, "Yeah, but like, why can't you do it?" And she was like, "Well, look, I have 10 of these, and you have four." I'm holding up a spoon right now, a metaphorical spoon. But she's like, "I have 10 of these, and you have 15, whatever the number she gives, and I can only, three of those is me getting out of bed, four of those is me having a shower, and I've only got three left. How am I meant to spend them?" And her friend suddenly got it. And it's a metaphor that was there's been bore by the kind of like energy limiting conditioned community. So like things like ME or other conditions that um impact on chronic fatigue. And I think it's slowly like migrated across the entirety of the disabled community, because I think if there's two things that unite us as a community, it's pain and fatigue. I think we all experience both of those, and some of us experience them both at the same time. um, and that's where it came from. That's why it is a spoon. But it's just quite a you can't buy more. You can buy, I suppose you can buy more with sleep. Um, if sleep is a refreshing thing for you. For me, it isn't that much. It maybe like resets me, but I'm still tired. But it's just a good way of determining how you're going to spend it. That's where it came from. Yeah.
Yeah, it is useful. So using up our spoons on something big. So it might be going to a protest where it's like that's an expensive spoon experience. Or for me in my line of work, we're doing community arts. It's delivering something that's going to be high. It's an expensive thing, but also exhilarating. I can get really buzzed off it, but then will experience a huge crash. So then coming home, I'm doing the afternoon of admin. That's what doesn't happen because by the time I've got home, I'm then curled. It's like someone pulls out the plug and all my brain power and physical power just fall out my arse. So I don't have anything left. So got that's also, oh, sorry, that was off the back of what you said, Kit, about measuring out your spoons for the rest of the week. And I think as a freelancer, that's key, isn't it? Because how do you've got to hustle. Like this idea that you've just constantly got to be working on other people's time scales. You're being pulled in different directions. So that's expensive. Time is money, that type of thing where if, yeah, I'm doing this thing, but it might cost me, I'm only getting paid for 3 hours, say, but time wise or recovery time, it's actually going to be a day, 2 days, 3 days, 10. So I've got to take that into account when accepting other work or taking in other projects and that sort of thing.
For me, personally, it's quite interesting because I love working with people, but I also really love to work on my own. And depending on what the commission is, for example, if it's a painting, I can sit on my own and do it. And that takes a lot less spoons for me because I think socializing can be something that takes a lot of my energy. It's never been something that I've been very skilled at, but I can sit for hours and hours and paint and then feel energized. Whereas if I go to a workplace which is full of other people, it it could potentially energize me, but I could also just feel really, really, really overwhelmed and a bit like, am I doing the right thing? There's so many people here. Is it the right way?
Yeah, yeah, and you mentioned earlier with the the ADHD of it all, I think you said, where you do lots of different things and you've got different what's the phrase? Fingers in pies? Is that the right phrase? I tend to get these metaphors wrong. Um, Yeah, there's pies in the fire and fingers somewhere else. Anyway, so is that part of your balancing act then? Do you kind of go, okay, I need a internal quiet task, and then uh, I can do this external, more loud project? Or how do you manage all that?
Yeah, I do find that I do try and balance it. So if I've got a nice thing I can paint and work on by myself, I'll do that. And then the next thing I'll do will be with other people. For example, there's the Trans Saints Community Project, which a friend and I are going to be, well, we are running it, but we've got a meeting later in the week. And I'm actually raring to go for that because I'm excited to collaborate with people. I've not really done it all month. So I think it's the kind of, yeah, just keeping it turning and then it'll feel doable and exciting as well. So it originally started off the back of my friend Gossip Girl's research, who is she's a researcher and historian, uh, who's trans and also in Leeds. And I've been riding her coattails for a while, working with various museums together. Um, but we started to look into like historical figures that could be interpreted as trans or non-binary. And a lot of the representation we found for trans masculine people was within the Christian faith or the Catholic faith. And a lot of saints who have unfortunately since been decanonized for various reasons because the church is backpedaling on no gender messing up, don't do that. But if you find out about these people and I'm not particularly religious myself, but I find it all really, really, really interesting. And that sense of purpose and wanting to do good for others just for the sake of belief in a better world and things like that. I think I'm very behind that. So we started finding all these trans saints and asked about as well to find if other people were interested. And quite a lot of people are actually researching this stuff. A couple of people in Leeds are doing their doctorates about it. So it's been fantastic to meet more people, and we're going to try and produce either a zine or a publication with our research and artwork. And then we're going to run a day event at Kirkstall Abbey at the end of June.
Oh, this sounds amazing. Absolutely fantastic. Um, Before I forget, have you seen or did you see it was about 10 years ago, Milk Presents are a theatre company, a queer theatre company, and they made a show called Joan, which was about Joan of Arc and played by a drag king. And it was one of the best pieces of theatre I've ever seen. If there's a video online or whatever you can find, I'd really recommend it. It was yeah, brilliant. So shout out to Muck Presents. Um, yeah, that sounds awesome, Kit. And Danica, how about yourself in terms of how do you manage the different tasks and allowing time for yourself to recover, or what happens if you have a flare up, or all those sorts of things?
Yeah, it's hard. I guess I try to limit myself to doing maybe like two big theatre acting jobs a year, because they take up a long time and they're very, very tiring. And when I'm doing them, I can't do anything else. Some people can balance doing more than one job at once, but I can't do that. So I've kind of got to tell people, listen, I'm going to be away for 10 weeks, 14 weeks, 16 weeks, or whatever, and I'm not really going to be able to do anything. Maybe towards the end when it starts getting a bit easier, I can start to pick it up again, but kind of got to like box off that time. And I guess when I'm there, it's about me having those conversations with them to make sure it's accessible. And I think I've made enough of a fucking nuisance of myself. I've made enough of a nuisance of myself that I think people are starting to realize, oh, actually, if we just do these things, life is easier for everyone. And I'm like, yeah, it really is. And also, it shouldn't have to be easier for everyone for you to listen. It should just be the thing that you do. But yeah, so I, have a conversation with the company usually before I start, maybe up to like 8-10 weeks before, so I can apply to access to work, and I've got the money there for a support worker when I need them, and I've got money for taxis, and I've got money for this, and I've got money for that. So that helps, like, be able to just kind of ring fence, I guess, a time off, but also make sure that it's the most accessible when I'm doing it. In terms of writing, it's about me saying I'm not an ideas factory and I can't work fast. I can't write for more than 2 hours a day, and even then that's a lot. It's just very tiring things. So if you're gonna want something from me, we need to plan it really, really far in advance, because I can't turn it out quick. I can't churn it out quick. And I guess writing you just do when you're well. But yeah, it's just about portioning off that time and making sure that after an acting job, I've got time off. Like I usually, I don't know why my body does this, and the doctors don't seem to know why. But usually after a big job, I'll get the flu or something like that, and I'll be really ill for about 4 weeks afterwards. Not really able to do anything, and I know that's coming, and I can, towards the end of the job, it starts to creep in, and I'm like, oh, just stay away for a bit, you know. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
It absolutely does. Yeah. Again, there's a lot in that I can recognize. And again, I think it's probably one of the challenges that I recognize is that so much of theatre, especially in community arts, is done last minute. So I can tell you now that in the last week of August, I didn't have any work for September. Come the first week of September, I got offered 3 jobs for that term. So dealing with that, like in terms of holding, and I'm sort of used to it now, but and it was the same for each job. Sorry, Nat, we've only just got the thumbs up for the funding. And you're waiting for this. They find it out last minute, and then suddenly it's this massive rush. And as you say, it makes it incredibly difficult because to manage your energy, or to say I can't do X, Y, and Z at if it's last minute. And there are now again other freelancers who I know are brilliant, um, talented, passionate people, and I know they've probably got ADHD, and they do everything at the last minute, and their brains work the opposite way to mine. And I go, I know that we can't collaborate because I need the extra time, and I need to plan and schedule everything and plan in backup time in case I'm ill.
I think as well, though, that's where an access clash hits, doesn't it? And we both have all parties have a responsibility to foster a collective action towards access. And that means that it can't just be, oh, well, I can't do it, I've got to do it last minute, and that's who I am. It's like, well, that is who you are, but where is the middle ground? Where can we both do something together? Because there is no hierarchy of need. No one's need is more than the other, but there has to be collective. And I feel like at the moment, and maybe this is just me, but I feel like access has become this really individual thing, that this is what I need and this is my access need, rather than us realizing that it is a collective, environmental, community driven thing. And like you say, you're going, well, I can't do that. But there was never a conversation that could have been had where it was like, meet you in the middle. And I call BS when people get funding last minute. Like I get, like, you know, applying for funding and having to reapply means that things are further down the line, but just plan further in advance, because you're not planning for me to be involved. You're not planning for us to be involved. And therefore it's an afterthought. It feels like inclusion rather than the next step of what inclusion is. I don't know what that is. I don't have a word for it yet, but it feels like, oh, we'll include you within it. And it's like, no. I should have been there from the beginning. I should be a brick in your wall and not just the mortar that you put on top, you know?
Beautifully put. I love that metaphor. I'm a brick in your wall, not a mortar you put on top. I'm going to put that on a t-shirt. In fact, Kit, you can make that part of your next set of zines that you produce.
It's just a really good point. As much as I'm like chaotic and can sometimes pick things up if I'm well enough, I also really like to have schedule and a calendar, and because I often need an hour between doing things just to, get back to baseline. But yeah, I do wish people would think about us more with the from the start, because yeah, it should be in your complete plan. And that's one thing that I was very glad that that kind of worked with the protests, but it doesn't work with workplaces like that. I've found I've actually lost out on a lot of work that I love to do because the second I say, "Oh, can we have a neon tape around this hazard?" It's too much work for people, and they don't want to spend the extra money or the extra time, um, which is a shame. But again, that shows the difference between community and corporation, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think both of you have touched on the similar kind of feelings of like being a nuisance. Danica, I know you said it with like a big old cackle, but that I've been that like so-called difficult woman for enough time, and it's feeling like it's apologizing for something that's out of your control. Sorry, this is annoying, or feeling like it's an extra bit of work, when really you're just asking for good practice.
I agree. And I think, Kate, you touched somewhat on there, like having a bit of neon tape around something takes no time at all. But there seems to be this like aesthetic of access that we're looking for the most beautiful part of it. And that's meaning that visually impaired and blind people are being left at the bottom. Like that's just the truth of it. If you're someone who experiences low vision, visually impaired, blind, like they are being left behind. And I say this within every conversation I have about access because I am a seeing person. I have with my glasses, my sight can be corrected, so I'm fine. But it's that specific community is being left, and it's because it's not. I don't know. It's not sexy, is it? There seems to be this real fetishization of access at the moment of it being sexy and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, blind people are sexy. My God. Obviously, all disabled people are sexy, but um, um, but it's this like I don't know. It's just like Kit said. It's this corporation. It's this what can we sell and sex sells and that kind of vibe of it. It's just I've got so many thoughts on this, but I'm going to keep my trap shut because I'm going to get myself in trouble. I can feel it.
Just like things that are complete like hazards to people with low vision or sight loss or any sort of blindness. They're just completely not thought about. Like, and just anything like, even like, drop curbs and everything. People park on them all the time. It's just, it's again, it's not sexy to stop and ask someone to move their car. It's not sexy to be like, hey, could you put your bin in? I've just hit myself on it. Like, unfortunately. But maybe one day we can make it so.
Absolutely, we can. And I love, Danica, what you were saying. Again, both of you have mentioned it's community, not corporations, and that this is a collective agreement, and just the change of mindset. I think again that was part of my instinct of going, well, everyone else we're speaking to for this episode was talking to individuals, and for this conversation I thought, well, we should try and get a group together and just see if we can have a collective conversation about it and sharing each other's experiences. Um, and that feeling of just, I can visualize just people standing in a circle and going, how do we come to a solution together, rather than it being on the responsibility of the person with the access need to demand it and request it. It's it should be on everyone's it should be everyone's responsibility.
I completely agree with that. I think it's through no fault of our own we feel isolated because often if you grew up in a non-disabled family and you're someone who becomes disabled or is and understand yourself as such, you are often the only one there. And I think if you're someone who experiences disability that could be socially isolating, for whatever reason, it means that you feel like the burden is on you because you're the problem. You've been posed as the problem. You've been positioned as the problem. And I think a lot of disabled people who are angry, which a lot of art is made about angry disabled people. It's about people with facial difference becoming murderers, or people who are autistic becoming mathematicians that create a bomb. Like it's always about the us being angry or violent or for some way, in that way that perhaps that stereotype exists because of that social isolation. And if there's one thing I could say to disabled people, neurodivergent people, deaf people, blind people, for whatever thing would be, go out there and find some crips that you like and go make friends with them, because that's going to be the best tool that you have. You'll learn that beauty of that access intimacy, because access is an intimate thing, and you'll experience it and pull it around with each other and realize, oh gosh, like actually I don't, like a friend of mine who has CP. I sometimes struggle with opening cans, and I'm a fiend for a Diet Coke. Although I've not had one this year, I'm doing really well. I'm doing dry January, and that includes alcohol and Diet Coke. No Diet Coke for January. But I said to him, "Can you open this?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And he opened it, and he said, "No one's ever asked me to do that before." And he goes, "It made me feel like I had a purpose." And I was like, "Oh shit, I just asked you because you're capable of doing that, and I'm not." And he was like, "No, no, it's a good thing, but." It made him feel like he had utility. It made him feel like he was useful. And as humans, yeah, utility and usefulness is attached to capitalism, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. I know that, but as humans, we need a purpose. And I think being around other disabled people will allow us to find purpose. And that, I think, is the heart of it all. If we find each other and find space for each other, then it'll happen.
And I think going back to what you were saying earlier about not being able to go to the protests, but that everyone in a movement has a purpose. And it's the same thing, is there's someone else who can open your can of fizzy pop, the the not the ones that we're boycotting, the other ones. Um and and someone else, well, you'll have a skill that your friend can't manage, and that we all have something to offer if we collaborate and can have kind of mutual joyful conversations.
Yeah, that I can bring my 8 pack of Asda Diet Coke, and you can open all 8 of them.
As long as you're okay with flat coke.
I mean, listen, it's good for a sore tummy, and as a sore tummy girl, I'm there for that.
Yeah, I also live with other trans and disabled people, and it is really uh, just life changing because you help each other, and it doesn't feel so. I don't know, it doesn't. You don't feel bad about it because everybody needs help. Nobody, nobody gave birth to themselves. Nobody taught themselves how to read. So we all need each other desperately. So we might as well uh, acknowledge it and make, help each other, but make boundaries we can respect for each other, as well as making time and providing energy. I do find it very useful though, because my one of my housemates has got more of a energy and physical condition, and I'm a bit more brain condition, like psychological, that's the one. Um so well, yeah, we can help each other's areas that need it.
Well, I'm aware of time, and again, as freelancers, I don't want to disrespect your time. So again, thank you so much for giving us this chat. I just wanted to. I think it feels like we've kind of come to a natural conclusion. That feels like a really positive place to end. Is talking on people going out and finding their community, and that being your primary space for connection and support. Is there any closing comments, anything that you like that you'd like to close on?
I guess, like, don't feel bad if that community is online. That's okay. But if you can, if you are able, finding that in real life is 1,000 million times better. Even if it's only once a month. There is no replacement for in-person interaction. That's what I've learned through this pandemic.
Just yeah, if you're gonna hire us to tick a box, at least keep us employed.
Oh, there we go. If you're gonna hire us to tick a box, at least keep us employed. Come on, I said this is going to be closing comment, but I need to know more about that. What? No, you're done. You're done. Kit is shaking her head. Well, yeah, I will say that is the that the work being unstable is incredibly difficult. And again, like just poor practice in terms of people's um that's bad. That affects all freelancers. That if you're disorganized, if you don't have a proper contract, if you don't have a schedule in place, if the roles and responsibilities are loose, this is stuff that is just, I think, absolutely riddled throughout the arts. Um, and but all that stuff is just maximized if you're disabled and also having your own physical challenges. I've put down that like one of the joys of being freelance is that so supposedly you're your own boss, but actually a lot of the time I just feel like I've got 10 different bosses and everyone else is my boss, but the king of those bosses is my body. And I have to be like, she calls the shots. So unfortunately, you're all gonna have to pipe down for a minute because like I can't. This is I don't control this girl. Um, so yeah. So if there's any employers listening, just be organized, please. Um, well, plan in your access requirements right from the start, and listen to disabled people. Put them in the heart of your organization and keep them employed, as Kit said. Well, thank you both so much for coming. I'm gonna stop the recording now.